Hey everybody, Hugh here. Welcome back. Well, for this particular video I'll do a update on the grow houses that we have here. There's the two glass houses, or if you like, greenhouse glass house, and then of course the grow tunnel here. I've been away, well, I haven't been on YouTube for the past week or so, week or 10 days. So I know I have a lot of your videos to catch up on. I'll get around to that, but I thought I better get back in the game and give an update here as to what's going on. And I'll give you a quick tour, I suppose, around, and we can have a look. Tomatoes, peppers, courgettes are the main piece. The grapes are coming along as well, which we'll have a look at. And of course you can see, very important in any sort of food growing area where you need pollinators, you can see there's some lovely colour there, which is always pleasing to my eye. You know how I like things to be looking nice and colourful. So there you go. It's like, I don't care what colour they are, once they're colourful. I think Henry Ford, oh no, he didn't. I think Hugh said it once, Horty Hugh said at one stage. Anyway, I'll step in here because I have a barrier to stop the animals roaming in. Very pleased with the colour. Before we jump into tomatoes, you can see that that is a tub of French marigolds, and I know I say it every year, but just love the smell of these. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I just think they're great when you rub off them. I particularly like, a lot of them are bred for this little compact effect. You see this rogue one that's sort of falling and tumbling over and tumbling out. Love it. Absolutely, bit of wildness. It's like, yeah, that's perfect. So it suits us. So you can brush off it, and I just love that smell. Tomatoes wise, just a quick recap. These are tomatoes that we grew from small plants. We didn't do any seeds this year because a strategic decision was taken in the spring because of our time, that we just sowing earlier in the year is just so much work. So we haven't sown much vegetables at all, to be honest. It's all been from young plants, just from a time saving perspective. And you can see doing very, very nicely indeed. The quick view is doing very nicely indeed. What are they, 10 litre 12 litre pots? You can see the likes of the what are they, the sweet, super sweets, I think. You know, they've been fruiting for the past, since late May, early June. They're super. They've been coming in, and the heat in the tunnel here is superb. So it's just been watering and feeding. You can see the way the compost, I know we've talked a lot about the compost and soil that we've used in other videos. It does shrink down and compact down. It's the nature of when you're using plenty of organic material. So a bit of a top dressing at this time of year is always beneficial. And we've been picking away. I think we're up to 2 kg of smaller tomatoes. Judith has grated when we're harvesting. She whips out the weighing scale to weigh things, whereas I'd be just whipping out the fruits and popping them in my mouth. Whereas she is very much like, no, get them weighed. It's just so we can keep track. So tomatoes, we're on about 2 kgs of the small ones, and that's before the sort of the bigger bumper ones come into. The beefsteaks come in. Watching Steve of Digwell last year, I think when he was growing his beefsteak, he only lets, I think, one, or certainly last year he was saying only lets one fruit form, because it's so much strain on the plant. So nearly the same, Steve, as you, if you're watching this, you can see 2 more, but they are like in relation to the size of my hand. Sorry about the camera work here. In relation to the size of my hand, you can see bloody huge. Tying wise, have them well tied in. We use the raffia. It's slower to do because it's all hand done with natural material and that sort of thing, but the plastic clips we were using earlier on, as Colleen was saying in her video there a while back, they don't hold. There they are. Once the stems get bigger, they're great just for an instant, clip on, so the stems don't fall over, but then they do need to be replaced with whatever materials that you do. And they're a particular favourite here of somebody's, the Roma. So they're nice and meaty. So they're great for sauces. So producing away there as well. Look at that! Don't you just love it? The red, That's just superb. It really is. The Surfina Petunia popped in there and just allowed do its thing. It's great when you have these guys out of the rain, particularly with the amount of rain that we've had recently, because it just spoils the flowers. Whereas you can see with these, once we keep deadheading and removing the flowers, it just keeps going. A little bit of a feed is always beneficial. Courgettes, 5 plants, absolutely smothered in mildew. The younger foliage is getting away somewhat, but the older foliage, jeepers, it just gets hammered, which is the nature. We've harvested 5 kg off the various plants at the moment. Again, feeding once a week, like with the tomatoes, with a bit of tomato food. But even still, the strain of the producing on the plants is just too much. So they are really a quick crop, aren't they? They come in, you get as much as you can off them, and then away they go again. So I will give these another spraying, but we're probably looking at end of life stuff. And again, it's the soapy, you know, the more organic sprays that we try to use, just because it is a food crop. These are the plants. I don't know, did I mention? I think I did mention these in previous video. We have 12 of these little containers because somebody keeps picking them up. So they're great for just hanging around the courtyard. And we got these plants for 50 cents each from one of the garden centres, end of the line type of thing. So we potted them up, brought them in, they're coming on. We just haven't hung them out because the rain has been so horrendous, but you can see them there. They'll come on very nicely. So I'll do a little bit of hardening up once the worst of this weather has turned away, and there's more. And lovely tomatoes again. A little bit of heat will redden these guys up nicely. We have been harvesting, as I've said, from them. And some beetroots that are coming on very nicely. Bit overcrowded, but sure, that's fine. That's the way we buy them. This is, for the record, Hugh, for your future self, this is the unknown tomato. Self-seeded itself into an Alstroemeria pot that didn't survive, and then this actually sprouted up. And they look, I think that these are the John Bear variety of tomato. I really do think that they are. They're like a miniature beefsteak, like a miniature big one. Nicky Kyle, the renowned gardener, gave me seeds a few years ago. So although I didn't sow any seeds this year, that one has decided, yep, you want me in the garden? And it's like, yep, okay, more mildew, etc., etc., and more tomatoes. What can you say? Happy days. Here's the raffia, the way it actually comes there. So we just cut off sections, tie them up, keep the plants well staked. Some of these varieties, they'll have, like, you know, one truss, then there's a second truss on them there, as in bunches, third, fourth. And they do say you should stop them after 4, because anything that's produced after that won't be quality. But I tend to leave some of them, especially the smaller varieties, go on and produce some more bunches up above. A, because they can, if you're doing your routine watering and feeding, and B, because there's nothing like having tomatoes growing over your head and beginning to arch over the tunnel later in the season. The bigger tomatoes it doesn't work with, but the smaller ones are great for doing that. I think I saw Duncan over in his place, and he was climbing through some tomatoes as well, so it's a pretty good feeling, you know. And of course you got that super scent. And some tumblers doing their thing. Little bit of green fly, little bit of starvation, but sure, look, we can only do so much. These are side shoots of tomatoes that have come on very nicely, indeed. And there's some more in one of the other houses as well, because we wanted to keep them separate. Some of them are the beefsteak and some of them are the Roma, were the two. And of course I label them so we'd remember which ones are which. Not. But anyway, the idea of doing these particular side shoots, there'll be one truss plants. So we let them produce one bunch of tomatoes and keep them at that, because they are later. A little bit of an experiment I'm doing. I didn't particularly talk about it earlier in the year. But side shoots taken early on and then allowed to produce. So that's the tunnel. Nice and colourful. Looks the part. And yeah, happy enough with that as it progressed. A bit more sunshine would be nice. As we leave there, we look down in between, and there is the broccoli plants that was flooded. That tray was flooded underneath the other day to empty out water because the rain has been so heavy on it. But again, look, they cost a couple of euros. We planted them up into 2 of those commercial mushroom containers with our compost mix, and we have already removed the centre shoots, and now you can see we've removed some of the side shoots. So nice value for growing our own. Almost organic, does that qualify? A little bit of maintenance needed on this house. As you can see, the storms from last year was patched back up. And it was like, oh yeah, I'll get to that. Fixing up, but never happened. Such is the way. Such is the way. I did have a wasp's nest in here. There you go. Little bit of colour again. Always a mixture of a bit of colour. Horty Hugh. Judah did that sign in the background from a couple of years back when this was the main one where I was doing my videos from. If you look back, you'll see this. Hail, rain or storm. Look at those peppers. Delighted. Jeepers, one of them was nearly dried out the other day, and I was like, that is not good. That is not, because it's been lashing rain, so of course we're assuming everything gets wet, but sure, they don't get wet in the houses. But lovely heat, which is what the peppers like. Producing plenty. Later than last year, of course, because we did them from early last year, whereas we did these ones, I think we sowed them in April, so they're producing nicely, and they'll colour up as well as the seasons go on if the slugs, snails or drought doesn't get them. Again, a bit of a feeding regime on them, and they're looking nice. Should I thin them out? Again, I've seen people thin them out, but I haven't here, and it's like I always look at that. Isn't that just superb? If I could be a flower. Look at that. The flowering tobacco plant. Again, self-seeded into another pot that wasn't belonged to it. I found these to be perennial, would you believe? Sort of like a tender perennial, that they will come back every year. And I gave Don't Mess With Me Americana. And some of those that I was showing you last month, they have just collapsed, and it's like still have to investigate those hookers and what's going on with them. And yet some more tomatoes, a couple of other random plants that we've been looking after, giving a bit of heat, just getting them out of that. You should see the courtyard. I'll do an update on that after all the rain. Plants getting absolutely hammered. It's like, oh my goodness. And there's the other batch of side shoot tomatoes down there. And of course, as I said, have them well labelled so I know exactly which is which. Not. And I always think the agapanthus is great in its colour. I had some of the daylilies, the hemerocallis, down there in trays, but I've moved them back out of there since. There was a wee little mouse about, so eating our strawberries, so cleared that up a little bit. And you can see no expense no expense spared on the trays for underneath the pots, as you can see. People go, oh, all your pots are in terracotta. I'm like, yeah, sure. No. Good lot of them in the courtyard are, but the rest of them are whatever, vessels, buckets, recycled containers. Look at this. This is the greenhouse. It was our sort of like our fruit house when all the strawberries were coming in. The blueberries have just finished. There's no point in showing you really that because there's no blueberries left on it. But along come the grapes. And I've got 3 newer varieties after seeing what people are doing. 2 years old, so 2 bunches was meant to be per plant, but you can see this one, and I don't know how I did it, I actually left 4 bunches on. It's like crap. And even within the bunches, then you're meant to thin out the bunches as well. It's like, oh, I've done some of that. I love the wildness of in here. It's like the potager over the allotment. It's just wild. It's actually, but all it's missing in here is a little bit of a chair you can sit down and eat on the grapes when they're ready. Look at that coming into fruition. Delighted that grape has come back, because that was the one that was being hammered in the potager. And dahlias, this year I was like, no, not doing dahlias, and I was asking Judith, and she was like, yeah, I have 1 or 2 of my own I might do, but I'm not going mad on them. So they were all starting to sprout, so I just put them in pots and left them. It's like grapes and dahlias in here, so a bit of wildness, a bit of flower. And they were the seed potatoes that were left over. Colleen and Jason, if you're still watching this, I was saying I had some ideas that they were coming along for. They didn't come to fruition, but anyway, look, there they are here. They're all in 2-litre pots, so the plants themselves are huge. I'm going to cut down some of the stems or the holums on them, and that'll reduce the size of the potatoes in the pots themselves, which suits us nicely as small sort of like salad potatoes. So it's how much can I get out of them in the smaller pots. In the 2-litre, 1.5 or 2-litre pots is a little bit of a challenge or experiment. Anyway, look, a little bit about what's going on here in the grow houses. Updates are slightly longer at this time of year, aren't they? Just trying to, because there is so much going on. Thanks as always for watching. Thanks for liking and subscribing, and of course appreciate all the comments and the chats that we have. And as always, do take care of yourselves. There's a lot going on out in the world out there for us to contend with, so do take care. Keep yourselves well. Keep your hands in the soil and your noses in the flowers once there's no bees. All the best. Take care. Bye bye for now.